I listen. I think we talked about this last video, but when that you and I did. But I'll tell you, the best thing that I do, right, is when there is when there's a comment that I may not like that much.
Yes.
You know what you do, right?
Yeah.
You
They
respond.
stick out like a sore thumb right there. Like,
You respond to it, right?
Yes.
And then you delete it. And
that's right.
and
That's
the,
the key.
and that's the key. And the reason why is because when you respond, they get a notification that you responded. They see the response, but they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, they can't answer you back. You know, here's the crazy thing. People have done that to me. And it's crazy because I will get the notification, and the notification just tells you like the first like few words or maybe like half a paragraph.
I love it.
So that's the key. Like you got to start strong with that, right? But then when they click on it, you can't go because that comment no longer exists.
Yeah,
so it just tells you like an error.
I love
so
it.
you're like, and I know that someone's been critical on me. They've been like, "Oh, you're a hack. You're like this. You don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then I click on it, and it's like error, and I'm like, "Oh, come on!" They totally get me, right? So
I love it. I love it.
So that frustration that they have thrown your way,
Yeah,
you just flip it right back to them. You give to them when they can't engage you anymore.
I love it. I love it. People, dude, the comment section is the worst, man. I honestly, one of the first few times, I think it was my latest video. I released the video. I made a comment on that video 2 hours after it went live, and I never looked at the video again.
Yes.
And dude, it was such a I took a vacation from reading video comments.
Yeah.
And Jay, it was an actual vacation.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Even when it's all good, it is nerve-wracking because I mean it's like dopamine, right? Like we do this because we want to be, because we want to put our stuff out there. We want to have an effect on others, right?
Right.
And so when you get to see the good comments, you're like, yeah,
right.
That's awesome. But if you get that, let's say you throw a video out there and you get like hundreds of comments, right? Like the first day.
Right.
Like you literally, if you don't actually force yourself, you will be there all day reading them and then answering back, arguing with the bad ones or the semi, the ones that are iffy, like in the middle. You could waste your entire day, like, and then next thing you know, you're like been days, and you're like, oh, I haven't made another video because I've been too busy dealing with the old one.
Yep, you're spot on. You're spot on.
So you kind of have to not do that. You just have to like just for yourself be like, it's out there. It's whether they like it or not. There's metrics that you can use to see if it was accepted or not, and then the comments is no.
But what I question sometimes. If you're into something and you put your heart into it and you release it into the wild and no one likes it, right? So where's the question is raised that was it worth it? Meaning like, was it worth it to you or was it worth it for YouTube and financial gain? And what's more important? Because when you look at the analytics of a video for something that you created and it didn't do well, you as the creator, why do you put things out there? Do you put things out there because you think people would like it? Or do you put things out there because you want to share what your experience is and it may not even matter what they or YouTube think? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's it's a really hard thing,
Yeah.
It just depends, I think, who you are. Like, I'll give you an example. These podcasts are kind of, because I'm putting them on my channel, so we're having like trouble getting any traction, right?
Right.
Because people are used to watching battery videos now on my channel.
Dude,
And then I start doing 2 hour
live
conversations.
Yeah, you were doing live streams for a while too. Like
I was doing live streams, and those were great because I had the interaction.
Right.
So that means people could talk to me, and I would do 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and those were great, right? But also, I get tired of talking for 3 hours nonstop, answering the same questions that I have 600 videos about. So I'm like, I'm like, all right, go watch the video. I did a whole video about
Right.
that one topic. Like,
Right.
so then I start doing these podcasts, and these podcasts are like that, where it's like every time I throw one up there, and you look at the numbers, I'm like, oh, no one's watching these.
Right.
But the thing is, I'm like, I don't care. I like this. Like, I totally like sitting down talking to people that are interesting, that are doing interesting things, that I do different things that I'm doing. Right. Like, I'm tired of just being focused on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that.
What else other people doing?
Yeah,
there
I
are
respect
other
that.
creators or other people that are doing amazing things. I wanna talk to them about that. And I have so many questions. I have, opinions about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly, now we're what? And this is what, number 13, 14, 15? I don't know, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Less than 20, right?
Yeah.
So now the people are finding this, and they're starting to put the comments like, oh, this is a great conversation. This is really interesting. Oh, I didn't know this about this. And they talk about a thing that is in the actual podcast. So I'm like, this is the people are listening to our conversations, right?
Right.
So I'm like, at the beginning, you're just like, who cares? I'm doing this because I want it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it in a healthy way, if you're doing it just for the views, following views, I think it's super unhealthy. If you're young, you could do it for a little while, but I think long run, it's really, really unhealthy, because the day that they don't come, then you're a wreck. You're a mess, right?
What the comments or the
views?
Views, yeah.
Views, right? And it's hard to chase views because it's a hit and miss. Like, I wanted to do a video that would go viral, right? And to me, going viral, the definition for me going viral was to get 1 million views.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, what are people doing? And I just kind of went and looked, and I'm like, okay, this dude's doing this, is doing like that. They're doing it about this length. They're talking like this. They're forming, they're structuring this way. Okay, let's do it. So then I went ahead and did a video, and I eventually did. It took a little while. It took like 6 months or something, but it eventually got to 1 million views.
Yeah.
Right? But since then, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do another one of those, right? And it's a bit of work when you like to do a proper video. You know this. Like, there's videos that are easy, but there are videos where you're like, there's a lot of work. You're building a dumb quad. How long did that take you?
That was stupid quad. Let me tell you something right now, man. That should have taken a month. It took 6 months to do.
Exactly.
And,
so
and,
now
and,
imagine,
and it's like this big. It's amazing just how long things take.
Yeah.
Yeah, building stuff is not easy.
No.
So for me, it's like any one video that is legit. There's one that I'm working on that has been on 2 years in the making. Wow. Right? And the reason is because I'm like, well, if I'm not going to get the views, well, here's the thing. Since then, I've done other videos, attempts at going viral, getting 1 million views, and I miss.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I got lucky on the first one. It's like, I had something important. I got something, I worked on the thumbnail.
Right.
The description, the title or whatever. And then since then, I'm like, okay, I think I got this. And then I'm going like, oh, no. Okay, let me do another one. Nope.
Right.
You're like, oh, okay, it's not that easy. Like, you got to work at it. It's like you got to miss 3-4 videos in a row. And those take a long time. It's like 6 months worth of building a thing or whatever. And then you're like...
it takes forever. So like a lot of build shows, when they build stuff for an episode, it's like, how well was this done?
Yeah.
No, you can tell that it wasn't. Well, and that's the other thing. They don't really... Sometimes they show it to you like it happened in a weekend, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Like they and then like a lot of the times, like working with Evie West, we're like, hey, we worked on 6 months for that car, and it seemed like when you see the show, you're like, it looked like they just put it together.
Right.
Like Evie West is not even in the picture there. Like they just skipped through. Oh yeah, so we're gonna put the motor here, and then like next scene is like, okay, I put the motor, and then
yeah, right.
Now let's paint it, and it's like as simple as that. And you're like, wait, what are you talking about? That was like 6 months of work. Like,
yeah, right. People like look different. Like one guy has a beard, then it goes away, and then like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's but it's the deception that I have a problem. Well, not deception, but the inaccuracy. I have a problem with that too sometimes, because people think that things are quick, and people think that things are a lot easier than they really are. Like a lot of people ask me, and I'm sure you get this too. They're like, "Hey, I have a 1994 Infinity, G35. Can you convert it to run on Tesla stuff, please?" And
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I got some bad news for you. I'm like, it's well, you did it in a quick, in really quickly. I was like, it wasn't quick.
It
It
wasn't quick and it wasn't cheap,
it
and it was a
wasn't.
lot of work.
Yeah, people think everything's cheap now.